Hi, welcome to part 4 of my Tamiya Wild Dagger chassis trail truck, done on the cheap with a Land Rover Discovery body. Now hopefully this time I'm going to be stripping the diffs down and locking them with some hot glue. That's all I need to do, just stick a bit more grease on them, put them back in. And hopefully fitting a couple of servos. You can put this truck to dual steer if you just use the same steering parts from the front on the back. The chassis is symmetrical, it's the same on the back and the front. So I'm going to give that a try. I tried it on my dual hunter with tractor's power and 16.8 volts, and it's just too quick for a dual steer, it just kept flipping over. But I'll give it a try on this, see what it's like. I can always go back to normal if I don't like it. I did buy a couple of really cheap Chinese made Metal Gear high torque servos. Now in anything that goes reasonably quick, these are rubbish because they don't centre properly. They never steer the same amount twice. They're not particularly that good, but they are powerful and they are Metal Gear, so they're pretty reliable. So for something slow like this, a trail truck, these should be ideal. And for 2 Metal Gear high torque servos and 2 alloy servo arms, I paid less than £10, or around about £10 on eBay. So even if they're rubbish, it doesn't really matter that much. These are supposed to be an updated model, and they claim that they're much better than the older ones, so I'll put that to the test and see. The difference between a good high quality servo though and these cheap Chinese made ones is night and day. So if you've got something that goes reasonably quick, putting something like this in just spoils it. I've tried a couple of different ones over the years and they're junk basically. Right, so I'll start stripping down the diffs and lock them with a bit of hot glue and then put them straight back in the truck. That's the motor out. I'm going to be running standard motors in this, standard Tamiya silver cans, 27 turn. With the 18 tooth pinion. You can use 18 or 20. It should be slow enough to go over the rough stuff, but quick enough so it's not too boring. I can always put crawler motors in later, but I don't see the need really. Right, that's the diff out. Now I'm just going to clean these up. Ordinarily you'd put a little bit of grease in, or a lot if you want to lock the diff up slightly, but I'm just going to clean it up and then fill it with hot glue, and that will lock the diff completely, and I can always change it back again later if I need to. Right, my glue gun's heated up now. I'm going to put some in to start with. And then I'm popping the gears straight in before it dries, or goes cool. That looks good. Now I'm going to fill the gaps in between. Check it's pushed down all the way. Now I'm going to put a little bit more over the top and then put the top gear on. So let's put the screws back in. Now I'm not going to tighten them down all the way with this because quite easily strip a thread on something like this. So I'm just going to do them almost all the way and then hand tighten them with a proper screwdriver. Right. hopefully that's fully locked now. Let's give it a test with the drive shafts or the cups. Fantastic. That hasn't fully set yet and it's already locked, so I don't see any problems with that. That's brilliant. Right, time to put the gearbox back together. And I'm going to put a tiny bit of this Year Racing anti-wear grease on. Quite expensive for such a small tub, but I think this stuff's brilliant. Right, it's all back together. Don't need a lot of that grease. In fact, looking at YouTube videos, I put more on than most people. This Year Racing stuff's great. As the gears turn, it just redistributes itself around the centre. It doesn't just fling out towards the edge. So when you rebuild the diff later on, you don't just find the inside of your gearbox covered in grease and nothing else. It's actually still all on the gears, so it's pretty good stuff. Now ordinarily I'd replace all those with stainless steel hex head bolts. They're all the screws I'm going to use now, but I'm doing this on the cheap, so I'm just going to stick with the standard stuff. Again, I'm not going to do these all the way up with the electric screwdriver. I'm just going to do them part way and then just finish them off with a hand screwdriver. Right, that's already got the 18 tooth pinion on, so I can drop that straight back in. Right, that's done. I'm going to do the other one off camera and take these arms off and have a look at putting the short arms on and putting it in the truck and seeing how it looks. Right, I've now mocked up the TL01 suspension, which is shorter. See, these are the standard Wild Dagger Jaw Hunter arms, and these are the TL01 arms. The rear ones are longer, front ones are shorter because obviously you've got the steering on the front. I've mocked them both up with steering. This is the shorter front arms. The camber stays pretty good until it gets to the top part of the travel, and then you get a bit of camber there, but that's fine. Not as much travel as I'd hoped, but the TL01 drive shaft fits fine. The steering works, just touches the back of the wheel arch very slightly. I can cut that out. I've got the wheelbase smack bang in the middle, so it's just a couple of mil too short, but that's okay. Yeah, that works fine. The tyre is just touching the part of the steering arm there, just slightly. So I'm going to put a couple of little Traxxas washers under the pin. Those very tiny Teflon Traxxas washers, that should be enough to push it out. Unfortunately, the back arms with steering, there's much too much camber on there. Obviously the reason for that is the back hub, the holes are not above each other, whereas on the front hub the holes are basically in line. So if I use the standard hub, that will get rid of the camber. So for now I'm going to run steering on the front only, and I'm going to run standard on the back. But all I need to do is make myself up a top link out of a couple of rod ends and a bit of threaded rod, and I can get that done, no problem at all. I may even try that, but I'm thinking of just getting it on the road as quickly as possible at the moment, so that's something for the future perhaps. But yeah, otherwise that, I'm happy. So I'll put this together and I'll get it on the truck. Hopefully the next time you see it will be sat on all four wheels. Oh yes, before that though, there's one thing I did forget to mention. You might be thinking, well, why doesn't he just make a couple of arms and fit steering on the back? It won't take 5 minutes. Unfortunately the TL01 drive shaft is just too short, so that's another thing I'll have to sort out. So for now it's going to be steering on the front only. Right, I've finally got a rolling chassis. Put both gearboxes in, I put the servo in, put the original front bumpers back on, they work as kind of skid plates. Use the shorter TL01 arms at the front, longer ones at the back. Temporarily I've put a mix of TL01 and Wild Dagger Jaw Hunter shocks on there. There's barely any movement with them. Unfortunately there's just no travel at all on them, but they'll do for now. It keeps the truck off the ground, and if it works I might invest in some decent shocks. As usual with any Wild Dagger, Jaw Hunter, any of those twin detonator type trucks, the steering was terrible, and that's what I took most of the time doing, to be honest with you. I've used a couple of links that I had lying around I bought from Crawford Performance Engineering for my Clodbuster. I've had a few left over. They happen to be almost the right length. Well, I've had to mount them on the steering with a very long bolt so they can move up and down the bolt. Just otherwise the extra steering I got, just with suspension going up and down, was terrible. The wheels were going in and out, and that's typical Wild Dagger, I guess. It's based on a Wild Dagger, so it's going to have the same problems as one. I might try and make up some links, maybe some bent links, mess about with how I've attached them, but apart from that the drive shafts are in. Yeah, it's a rolling chassis. Like I said, with these shocks there's not much axle articulation at the moment, but there's a lot more available if I fitted shocks with a bit more travel in. But I suppose I should just put the body on now, give you a look, and that's it for this video. Ah, there you go. Now you can see the wheelbase is just very slightly shorter than the actual body, but I can adjust the body mounts to kind of hide that as best I can, move the body forward slightly, I guess. There we go, and it's quite tighten them up, you can tell. And with this suspension travel it's not even hitting the bodywork, although if I fit long travel shocks it will do. I'm certainly pleased I didn't go for the slightly larger versions of these tyres. Same wheels, but they do a larger tyre version. I think that would have been a bit too much. Right. Quite pleased with that so far. See, I put the steering wheel back on and the dashboard back in. A bit of trim in and I managed to make it fit. Oh, that's it for this video. Feel free to rate, comment or subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.